Tear it up.
Oh, yeah, we have to hit that again. So it's not, okay. I love that song. All of the joy in the life into my life today. I was going to end with that idea, but I think I'm going to read this quote. Michael Beckwith quote. It says, "The circulation of good, love, and peace is perennial. It's eternal. It's forever. And it is our role to participate fully and completely. We are to provide the context for the delivery of that good." Isn't it lovely? It goes right along with that song. Very nice. This month is all about bringing truth to circumstances. And I think that is brilliant. Circumstances, every circumstance in our life. If you think about what Ernest Holmes said, we have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and in a new life. We can transcend any circumstance and create what we want. It makes me think of a maze. You know, our lives, I think our lives are a lot like a maze. And where our little egos are all the mice running around in the maze trying to find the cheese of the moment. The cheese might be a new job. The cheese might be a soulmate. The cheese might be a new car or other form of transportation. And whenever you run into a dead end, it's like, oh, okay, I got to turn around. Now where do I go? Oh, another dead end. And there's a temptation after a while to get very frustrated and to start blaming the government, blaming the medical establishment, blaming the educational system, blaming the prison system. You know, complaining is a national pastime. The thing is that none of that does any good whatsoever. It keeps us mired in the maze. And if we listen to what Ernest Holmes said, we have a power within us that will transcend any circumstance. So the answer to the maze is to rise up to a frequency that lifts us out of the maze altogether. And from that perspective, which is often called an aha moment, we can see the way out, we can see the way to the cheese, and we often find out that we didn't really want that cheese at the moment anyway. It wasn't as important as we were making it. So how do we get out of the maze? How do we lift ourselves up? And part of that is simply to read wonderful quotes or books by Ernest and other great teachers that remind us the power we have, who we are, what we can do about things. And as I said earlier, we can overcome any situation, but perhaps the better test, the better thing to do is simply to turn it over to God, to let the divine mind guide us to the best outcome, whatever that may be. Because quite often when we're in the mouse stage, we don't see our own best interests. We have no idea what our own best interest is. You know, when you're in high school in love with that gorgeous guy, 16 or 17-year-old, you're too older than you, and you think he's super wonderful. And then he goes off with another woman and you feel crushed. Or same thing with a girl. You know, you apply it to yourself. And then years later, you say the same guy and you go, man, thank you, God.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, God, that I didn't end up with that one. Not because he was bad, but it was so completely opposite of what you had become. Or she, it's just like, oh no, that isn't what I want now at all. At 16, I thought that was my best interest, but now at 25, 30, 45, whatever, I can see it wasn't. So allowing spirit to guide us is probably our best way to get out of that maze. And we know that the spirit has our best interests at heart. The only conspiracy theory, I'm going to say that again. The only conspiracy theory worth believing in is that the universe is conspiring for us to reach our highest potential. Any of the others keep us in the maze. Ain't it awful? Ain't it awful? Ain't it awful? But that one isn't awful. So one of the ways that you can lift yourself out of the maze would be to say, the universe is conspiring to help me express my full potential. Shall we all say that together? The universe is conspiring to help me express my full potential. And the rest of it goes, and all I have to do is anticipate good things happening in my life. So let's say that one from the top. The universe is conspiring to help me express my full potential. And all I have to do is anticipate good things happening in my life. Anticipating good is a good place to start participating with spirit in the creation of good things in our lives. They may not always come in the form we were thinking about in the most stage, but when we are fully unified with that thought, then is bringing to us wonderful things we couldn't have imagined. I mean, if you think about 10 years ago, where you are now, that all the wonderful things that have happened to you in 10 years could be happening to you now. Sometimes there's things we don't even conceive of. We couldn't have imagined it. Of course, anticipating raise yourself out of that maze is a story by Michael Beckwith that he tells in one of his talks that I listened to about a woman coming to him who was absolutely at her wit's end. She had several children, and her husband wouldn't pay child support. He wasn't paying alimony. He wasn't keeping up his end of the bargain in the divorce. And she went to Michael and she said, "No, I don't want all that crap about forgiveness. I just need to God. The next day she called him and she said, what does that mean? And he said, and I quote, your subconscious is telling you God is your source, not your husband. Start thanking God for that support and watch the miracles grow. So she did. She started thanking God every day for her, things working out in divine order. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for everything. And within a week or two, she was offered a job. This is a true story, by the way. This isn't one of those made up things. It's a true story. In a week or two, she got a job offer for more pay than she could have imagined. And not long after that, her husband started paying his child support at a rate higher than he had been asked to by the court. Wow. So as long as she was running in the maze of, I got to get the alimony from my husband, I got to get the alimony from my husband, she was hitting dead ends, one after the other, aggravating him to where he didn't want to pay anything, right? And not getting anywhere. And she wasn't into forgiveness. So, but when she got into gratitude, that's all it took in that case. Gratitude, and God gave her, or God led her to a job that was good paying job where she didn't need the alimony, the child support. And then guess what? When you don't need it, it comes of its own accord. You're not grasping, you're not saying, I gotta have this. You're not in the maze. She lifted herself out of the maze. She brought truth to circumstance. African spirituality teaches that we were not created by a powerful God, but evolved from this planet, life on this planet. And like waves in an ocean, which carry the same salty composition as the ocean itself, we are expressions of the divine life force that governs this planet. Isn't that nice? Michael Beckwith would say, all of life is sending out a broadcast. Let there be life. Let there be love. Let there be joy. Let there be beauty. And we are here to reveal, to magnify, and to broadcast that sacred word, that sacred frequency, that sacred vibration as our own life. That's why we can't go around complaining, because we stop vibrating at that level when we do. Course in Miracles says, I bless the world because I bless myself. The truth maintains that giving will increase what you possess. But how is this possible? For it is sure that if you give a finite thing away, your body's eyes will not perceive it yours. Yet we have learned, and this is the Course in Miracles saying this, yet we have learned that things are what represent the thoughts, that sounds familiar, that make them. And you do not lack for proof of that. When you give ideas away, you strengthen them in your own mind. Again, why would you ever want to complain when stating the positive, anticipating the good is going to strengthen that in your mind, strengthen that in your frequency, and bring it to you all the faster, right? Perhaps the form in which the thought seems to appear is changed in giving. Yet it must return to him who gives. Nor can the form it takes be less acceptable. It must be more. What a wonderful promise. We always go around saying, this or something better, Lord, right? So if I say, okay, I graciously release this, whatever this might be, you can give, and you give, and you give, and you're going to receive with your generosity, with the love, with the creativity, with whatever it is that you're giving. But if it's taken, like you lose a job or you lose something else, then I release it with gratitude for what I had and for what is coming next, which I know cannot be less than what I've had already. Like I talked about with that 16-year-old first crush, you might lose that person to another boy or girl in the school, but if you release it, don't resist the change, another relationship much more befitting will come your way quicker than if you're moping around it. Same thing with jobs, same thing with everything. The form that comes back to you is not less acceptable. It must be more. For each will have the thought in the form most helpful for him or her. So whatever comes back to us is the most helpful for us. That's a fabulous promise. Furthermore, what we seem to lose is always something that we will value less than what we will surely be returned. We keep evolving, knowing that the universe has our back. Remember, the only conspiracy theory is knowing that the universe is conspiring in our favor to bring us to our highest potential and our best life. So we have to be willing, as we said in the song last week, I release and I let go, I let spirit run my life. When you can truly, truly turn yourself over to source, you gain confidence in yourself and in the support of the universe. And that vibrational frequency becomes like a beacon of receptivity that brings to you, and this I quote from Beckwith again, good you don't know exists yet. You don't know exists yet. The wonderful things in the past that we didn't know existed that came to us are our own life experience. And the more we trust that, we develop a radical trust in the power of God and our own higher self, our own higher power. And that has to be melded with a willingness to feel that deep sense of expectancy and protection. When you combine trust in God and you feel expectancy and a sense of protection, safety, whatever you want to call it, this will lead you to a willingness to live in uncharted territory. To live in uncharted territory. We don't like change very much as a human being, as a human species. So when we can get ourselves to that point where we're willing, come on, God, bring it to me. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be wonderful. Then it is wonderful because that's the vibration, that's the frequency we are putting out, and our beacon is calling it to us. So let's say together, I am participating in the feeling tone of the miraculous now. I am participating in the feeling tone of the miraculous now. Feel good? Really good. And then just get out of the way. And watch what shows up. So as Ernest Holmes said in the first place, we have a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us free, satisfied, and at peace. healed and prosperous in a new light and in a new life. And the only way that it will be new is if we let Spirit lead the way into something miraculous that we don't know exists yet. Thank you. Now it's time for our discussion.